The underestimated vessel. The HC's persistence hung in the void of space, its weathered hull a testament to the countless battles and journeys it had endured. The ship, once a proud symbol of human ingenuity and determination, now found itself relegated to the fringes of the Galactic Alliance's fleet. Captain Nora Vance stood on the bridge, her steely gaze fixed upon the stars beyond the viewport. She knew that the Alliance saw her ship as little more than a relic, an outdated vessel unfit for the front lines of the ongoing war against the Zorgan Empire. Despite the Persistence's age, Captain Vance and her crew remained fiercely loyal to their ship. They saw beyond the worn exterior and recognized the true strength that lay within. The Persistence's crew was a tight-knit group, each member dedicated to keeping the ship running at peak efficiency. From the seasoned engineer, Max Red, to the tactical prodigy, Lieutenant Kira Sen, every crew member played a vital role in maintaining the Persistence's readiness. As the ship cruised through the emptiness of space, Captain Vance couldn't help but reflect on the Alliance's dismissive attitude towards older human technology. In their quest for advancement and superiority, they had forgotten the lessons of the past. The Persistence, like many of the older ships in the fleet, was a reminder of a time when human ingenuity and resourcefulness were the keys to survival in the harsh realities of space. The Galactic Alliance's leadership, secure in their cutting-edge warships and advanced weaponry, often overlooked the potential of ships like the Persistence. They believed that victory against the Zorgan Empire would be achieved through sheer technological might, dismissing the value of experience and adaptability. Captain Vance, however, knew better. She understood that success in war was not just about having the most advanced tools, but about how those tools were used. In the face of the Alliance's skepticism, Captain Vance remained determined to prove the Persistence's worth. She knew that her ship and crew had something special to offer, a resilience and cunning that could not be easily replicated by even the most advanced AI systems. The Persistence had seen its fair share of battles and emerged victorious, not because of its cutting-edge technology, but because of the skill and determination of its human crew. As the ship pressed on through the star-studded expanse, Captain Vance couldn't shake the feeling that the Persistence's greatest challenge lay ahead. She knew that the Zorgan Empire was a formidable foe, with technology that far surpassed anything the Alliance had yet encountered. But she also knew that the key to victory lay not in trying to outmatch the enemy's technology, but in finding ways to outmaneuver and outsmart them. With a resolute nod, Captain Vance turned her attention back to the task at hand. The Persistence had been assigned to patrol a remote sector of space, far from the front lines of the war. It was a mission that many in the Alliance saw as a waste of resources, but Captain Vance saw it as an opportunity. An opportunity to prove that the Persistence and its crew were far more than the sum of their parts. An opportunity to remind the Alliance that true strength lay not in the gleam of new technology, but in the indomitable human spirit that had carried them to the stars in the first place. As the Persistence charted its course through the unknown, Captain Vance couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in her ship and crew. They might have been underestimated by the Alliance, but they knew their own worth. And as they ventured forth into the darkness of space, they did so with the knowledge that they carried with them the hopes and dreams of all humanity, a beacon of light in a galaxy consumed by shadow. An unexpected discovery. The Persistence's aging engines hummed steadily as the ship navigated through the remote sector it had been assigned to patrol. The crew went about their duties with the efficiency born of years of working together in close quarters. In the engineering bay, Max Red pored over the ship's systems, his brow furrowed in concentration. Max was a man who knew the Persistence's every bolt and circuit, having dedicated his life to keeping the ship running smoothly. As he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something he was missing, some untapped potential hidden within the ship's outdated systems. His musings were interrupted by the arrival of Lieutenant Kira Sen, the ship's tactical officer. Kira was a brilliant strategist, her keen mind always searching for ways to give the Persistence an edge in combat. She had come to engineering with a question, a curiosity that had been nagging at her for some time. "Max," she began, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I've been going over the data from our last skirmish with the Zorgans. Something doesn't add up." Max looked up from his work, his interest piqued. "What do you mean?" Kira pulled up a holographic display, her fingers dancing over the controls as she navigated to the relevant data. "Look here," she said, pointing to a series of graphs and charts. The Zorgan ship's shields were fluctuating in a way that shouldn't be possible. "It's almost as if—" Her voice trailed off, her mind racing with possibilities. Max leaned in closer, his eyes widening as he realized what Kira was suggesting. The Persistence's weapons, outdated though they were, had somehow managed to disrupt the Zorgan shields in a way that modern Alliance technology could not. The two officers worked tirelessly, poring over data and running simulations. They discovered that the Persistence's older, less refined weapon systems emitted a unique frequency that resonated with the Zorgan shields, creating tiny fluctuations that could be exploited. As the magnitude of their discovery began to sink in, Max and Kira realized that they had stumbled upon something that could change the course of the war. They rushed to inform Captain Vance, their excitement tempered by the knowledge that their findings would likely be met with skepticism by Alliance Command. Captain Vance listened intently as Max and Kira laid out their findings, her expression unreadable. When they had finished, she leaned back in her chair, her eyes distant as she contemplated the implications of their discovery. "This could be the key to turning the tide against the Zorgans," she said at last, her voice filled with a mix of hope and determination. "But the Alliance will never take us seriously. They'll dismiss it as a fluke, or worse, a delusion." Max and Kira exchanged a glance, their faces set with resolve. "Then we prove it to them," Max said, his voice steady. "We take the fight to the Zorgans and show the Alliance what the Persistence is capable of." Captain Vance nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "We'll need to be careful," she warned. "If the Zorgans catch wind of what we're up to, they'll stop at nothing to destroy us." And so the Persistence's crew began to plan, their determination to prove themselves fueled by the knowledge that they held the key to victory in their hands. They worked in secret, modifying the ship's weapon systems to harness the unique frequency they had discovered. As they labored, the Persistence continued its patrols, the crew ever vigilant for signs of Zorgan activity. They knew that their chance would come, a chance to show the Alliance and the galaxy what true human ingenuity and courage could achieve. And so, the stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through the annals of history, a battle in which an aging, underestimated ship and its crew would face impossible odds and emerge victorious, their legacy forever etched in the stars. A risky gambit. As the Persistence cruised through the emptiness of space, Captain Vance found herself lost in thought. The weight of her decision to keep Max and Kira's discovery secret from Alliance Command weighed heavily upon her. She knew that she was taking a tremendous risk, not only with her own career but with the lives of her crew. But she also knew that the potential rewards far outweighed the risks. If they could prove the effectiveness of their modified weapons against the Zorgan shields, it could turn the tide of the war in the Alliance's favor. The Persistence might be an aging ship, but it had the chance to make a difference, to strike a blow against the enemy that had thus far seemed invincible. Captain Vance's musings were interrupted by the sound of the comm system crackling to life. It was a message from Alliance Command, ordering the Persistence to investigate a remote sector where Zorgan activity had been detected. Intelligence suggested that a small fleet of Zorgan ships was gathering there, possibly in preparation for an attack on a nearby human colony. As the message ended, Captain Vance felt a surge of excitement mingled with trepidation. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for, a chance to put Max and Kira's discovery to the test in real combat. She knew that the odds would be against them. The Persistence was just one ship, going up against an entire Zorgan fleet. But she also knew that they had a secret weapon, one that the Zorgans would never see coming. She called her senior officers to the bridge, her face set with determination. "We have our orders," she said, her voice steady. "But more than that, We have a chance to make a real difference, to show the Alliance and the Zorgans what we're capable of." Max and Kira exchanged a glance, their faces mirroring the captain's resolve. They knew the risks, but they also knew that they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the Persistence set course for the remote sector, the crew began to prepare for the confrontation to come. Max and his engineering team worked tirelessly to fine-tune the ship's modified weapons systems, ensuring that they would be ready when the time came. Kira and her tactical team ran simulations and drills, honing their skills and strategies for the battle ahead. But even as they worked, a sense of unease hung over the ship. They were venturing into unknown territory, facing an enemy that had thus far proven unstoppable. They knew that they might be outmatched, that the Zorgans' technology might prove too advanced for even their modified weapons to overcome. But they also knew that they had something the Zorgans did not: the indomitable human spirit, the will to fight and survive against all odds. They were a crew of misfits and underdogs, but they were united in their determination to prove their worth, to show the galaxy what they were capable of. As the Persistence drew closer to its destination, Captain Vance called her crew together one last time. She looked out at the faces before her, seeing in them the same mix of fear and determination that she felt in her own heart. "We are about to face the greatest challenge of our lives," she said, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "But I have faith in each and every one of you. I know that together we can achieve the impossible. We can show the Alliance and the Zorgans what the human spirit is capable of. We can make a difference, here and now, in this moment." And as the crew of the Persistence steeled themselves for the battle to come, they knew that they were not just fighting for themselves, but for all of humanity. They were the underdogs, the forgotten, the overlooked. But they were ready to show the galaxy what they were made of, ready to seize their destiny among the stars, the calm before the storm. As the Persistence drew closer to the remote sector, where the Zorgan fleet had been detected, a sense of tension hung thick in the air. The crew moved about their duties with a quiet intensity, each lost in their own thoughts of what lay ahead. On the bridge, Captain Vance stood before the main view screen, her eyes fixed on the starfield beyond. She knew that they were walking into a trap, that the Zorgans would be waiting for them with a force far greater than their own. But she also knew that they had no choice. The lives of countless human colonists hung in the balance, and the Persistence was their only hope. As the ship dropped out of warp speed at the edge of the sector, the view screen filled with the sight of a vast Zorgan armée. Ships of every size and description hung in space like a swarm of angry insects, their angular hulls bristling with weaponry. Captain Vance felt her breath catch in her throat at the sight. She had known that the Zorgans would be present in force, but the sheer scale of their fleet was staggering. The Persistence was hopelessly outmatched, a single, aging ship against a tide of advanced alien technology. But even in the face of such overwhelming odds, Captain Vance refused to let fear take hold. She turned to her crew, her eyes blazing with determination. "This is it," she said, her voice steady. "The moment we've been preparing for. The moment when we show the Zorgans and the Alliance what we're made of." She looked to Max and Kira, nodding in silent acknowledgement of the work they had done. The ship's modified weapons systems were ready, the product of countless hours of research and experimentation. They represented the Persistence's only hope of survival against the Zorgan onslaught. As the crew scrambled to their battle stations, Captain Vance took her seat in the command chair. She keyed in a series of commands, her fingers flying over the console with practiced ease. "All hands, this is the captain," she said, her voice echoing through the ship's intercom. "We are about to engage the enemy. I know that the odds are against us. I know that many of you are afraid. But I also know that each and every one of you has the courage and the skill to see us through this. We are the crew of the Persistence, and we will not back down." A cheer went up from the crew, a defiant roar that echoed through the ship's corridors. They were ready, united in their determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the Persistence moved toward the Zorgan fleet, Captain Vance felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. She knew that the coming battle would be the greatest test of her life, a crucible that would forge her and her crew into something greater than they had ever been. She thought of all the challenges they had faced together, all the times when the odds had seemed insurmountable. And yet, they had always found a way to persevere, to adapt and overcome. Now, as they faced the greatest challenge of their lives, Captain Vance knew that they would do so again. They would fight with everything they had, with every ounce of courage and ingenuity they possessed. And win or lose, they would do so as a crew, as a family. The Persistence moved into range of the Zorgan fleet, its weapons systems humming with power. Captain Vance took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the enemy ships ahead. "Fire," she said, her voice calm and steady. And with that single word, the battle began, a desperate struggle against impossible odds that would echo through the annals of history. The Persistence, the ship that had been overlooked and underestimated, would face its greatest test. And in doing so, it would prove to the galaxy the true strength of the human spirit. David and Goliath. The Persistence surged forward, its engines roaring as it charged toward the Zorgan fleet. On the bridge, Captain Vance gripped the armrests of her command chair, her eyes narrowed in concentration. She knew that the next few minutes would decide the fate of her ship and crew. As the Persistence drew closer, the Zorgan ships opened fire, their weapons cutting through the void of space like scythes of energy. The Persistence shuddered under the impact, its shields flaring as they struggled to absorb the onslaught. But even as the enemy fire intensified, Captain Vance remained calm, her voice steady as she issued commands to her crew. "Tactical, target the lead ship with our modified weapons," she said, her eyes fixed on the viewscreen. "Engineering, divert all available power to shields and weapons." Max and Kira worked frantically at their stations, their fingers flying over the controls as they brought the Persistence's new weapon systems online. The ship's outdated pulse cannons had been retrofitted with a resonance amplifier, a device that would allow them to penetrate the Zorgan shields like a hot knife through butter. As the Persistence drew within range, Max nodded to Kira, his face set with determination. "Resonance amplifiers charged and ready," he said, his voice tense. Kira returned the nod, her finger hovering over the firing control. "Targeting solution locked," she said, her voice steady. Captain Vance took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "Fire," she said, her voice ringing out clear and strong. The Persistence's pulse cannons erupted, their bolts of energy streaking through the void of space like lightning. But these were no ordinary bolts. They pulsed and shifted, their resonance frequencies perfectly tuned to the Zorgan shields. For a moment, it seemed as though nothing had happened. The Zorgan ships continued their relentless assault, their weapons pounding against the Persistence's shields like hammers against an anvil. But then, something extraordinary happened. The lead Zorgan shift shields flickered and died, the resonance bolts tearing through them like tissue paper. The ship itself shuddered and lurched, its hull rupturing under the sudden onslaught. On the bridge of the Persistence, a cheer went up from the crew. They had done it. They had proven that their modified weapons could penetrate the Zorgan shields. But the battle was far from over. The Zorgan ships regrouped, their formations shifting as they moved to flank the Persistence. Captain Vance knew that they would not be caught off guard again. The Persistence shuddered and rocked as the Zorgan weapons found their mark, its shields straining under the onslaught. In engineering, alarms blare and sparks flew as the ship's systems struggled to keep up with the damage. But even as the situation grew more desperate, the crew of the Persistence refused to give up. They fought with everything they had, their modified weapons tearing through the Zorgan shields like paper. One by one, the Zorgan ships fell, their hulls rupturing and their crews consumed by the vacuum of space. The Persistence pressed its advantage, its weapons firing nonstop as it carved a path of destruction through the enemy fleet. But the battle was taking its toll. The Persistence's shields were failing, its hull breached in a dozen places. In the med bay, the injured and dying lay in rows, their blood staining the deck plates. And still, the Zorgans kept coming, their ships seemingly endless in number. Captain Vance knew that they could not hold out forever. They needed a miracle. And then, just when all seemed lost, a miracle arrived. A fleet of Alliance ships dropped out of warp speed at the edge of the battlefield, their weapons blazing as they charged toward the Zorgan fleet. The tide had turned. The Persistence and its crew had bought the time the Alliance needed to arrive. And now, they would finish the job together. As the Alliance ships joined the fray, Captain Vance felt a sense of pride and triumph well up within her. They had done it. They had proven the worth of the Persistence and its crew, and in doing so, they had struck a blow against the Zorgans that would be felt across the galaxy. The battle raged on, but now, it was a battle that the Alliance could win. And as the last Zorgan ship exploded into a ball of fire and debris, Captain Vance knew that the Persistence had earned its place in history. They were no longer the underestimated, the overlooked. They were heroes, the crew that had stood against impossible odds and emerged victorious. And as the Alliance ships surrounded them in a shield of honor and respect, Captain Vance knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Turning the tide. As the last of the Zorgan ships exploded into a brilliant fireball, a hush fell over the battlefield. The crew of the Persistence stood in stunned silence, barely daring to believe that they had emerged victorious against such overwhelming odds. On the bridge, Captain Vance slumped back in her chair, her face lined with exhaustion and relief. She had pushed her ship and her crew to the brink of destruction, and somehow, they had come out the other side. As the Alliance ships moved to secure the area, a message came through on the comm system. It was from Admiral Jameson, the commander of the Alliance fleet. "Captain Vance," he said, his voice filled with a mix of awe and respect. "What you and your crew have done today will be remembered for generations. You have struck a blow against the Zorgans that will change the course of this war." Captain Vance felt a lump form in her throat, her eyes stinging with unshed tears. She had known that the Persistence was capable of great things, but to hear it acknowledged by the highest ranks of the Alliance was a validation beyond her wildest dreams. As the news of the Persistence's victory spread throughout the fleet, a sense of hope and renewed determination swept through the ranks. The Zorgans, who had seemed so invincible, had been beaten by a single aging ship and its crew of underdogs. In the days that followed, the Alliance began to retrofit its fleet with the resonance amplifier technology that Max and Kira had developed. The Zorgans, who had relied on their advanced shields for so long, found themselves suddenly vulnerable. The tide of the war began to turn as the Alliance pressed its advantage. The Zorgans, who had once seemed unstoppable, began to retreat, their ships falling before the might of the Alliance fleet. And through it all, the Persistence and its crew remained at the forefront of the fight. They had proven themselves in the crucible of battle, and now they were the tip of the spear in the Alliance's campaign against the Zorgans. Captain Vance and her crew became heroes, their names spoken with reverence and awe throughout the fleet. They were the ones who had dared to stand against the Zorgans when all seemed lost, the ones who had proven that human ingenuity and determination could overcome any obstacle. As the Alliance pushed deeper into Zorgan territory, the Persistence was always at the vanguard, its modified weapons tearing through the enemy's defenses like a hot knife through butter. The ship and its crew had become a symbol of hope and defiance, a beacon of light in the darkness of war. And as the final Zorgan stronghold fell before the might of the Alliance fleet, Captain Vance knew that the Persistence had earned its place in history. They had started as outcasts, a relic of a bygone age, but through their courage and determination, they had become legends. As the crew of the Persistence stood on the bridge of their ship, watching as the Alliance ships moved to secure the final victory, Captain Vance felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that words could not express. They had done the impossible. They had stood against the darkness and emerged victorious. And in doing so, they had proven to the galaxy the true strength of the human spirit. As the Persistence set course for home, its hull scarred and battered but its spirit unbroken, Captain Vance knew that they had accomplished something that would be remembered for generations. They had not just won a battle, but had changed the course of history. And as the ship jumped to warp speed, the stars stretching into long lines of light, Captain Vance knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, the Persistence and its crew would be ready to face them. For they were the heroes of the Alliance, the ones who had dared to stand against the darkness and emerge victorious. And nothing would ever be the same again.